what makes plants amazing?
Yeah, several, like so many things. I mean, first of all, we are part of nature, right? Plants have been around long before humans were. I view plants as our elders, our teachers, and literally they are about 10 years ahead of us from a consciousness standpoint. So they know what's coming. They evolve to be able to guide us through the earth changes that are happening, through the energetic changes, through the environmental changes. And so here they are, these like amazing allies that are guiding us really in this toxic soup that we're all living in right now. But they're amazing. And Dr. Zach Bush, if you don't know who he is, highly recommend you follow him. He's one of my favorite people to learn from. And he said very similar to animals that plants know when you are coming home. When you are about 2 kilometers away from your house, the plants can sense your energy and they know that you're on the way home. So isn't that interesting? We don't even think about that, right? We think of plants as very just kind of like complacent as they kind of sit there, but they actually have a consciousness, a vibration, a frequency, and energy that interact with our own. So I mean, that's the amazing part of plants.
This is all new to me. I've always enjoyed plants and I almost think of them as decoration. Like this
Right.
room needs a plant. That room, and so you just said something that I don't want to just quickly pass over. You said they're 10 years ahead of us in terms of consciousness.
Correct. Yes. So they are always evolving just like us, and they are sentient beings. They have this energy, this consciousness, this vibration. And they are 10 years ahead of us, according to the indigenous peoples who, are known to hold kind of the heartbeat of the earth.
Say more about the indigenous peoples. That this is fascinating to me.
Yeah. So, really, it's the Hopi Indians. They hold the keys to the consciousness on the planet, to the evolution of our planet. And they are the ones who talked about when we hit, 1999, when we all thought, oh my gosh, the world was going to end. The Hopis said, no, 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 no. It's just that we are evolving and our energy is changing. And so, they kind of track those changes as we're going through them from a humanity standpoint and from an earth standpoint. And that is one of their teachings of this consciousness. And so, it's kind of funny to me. I was vegetarian for many years. I was vegan. I was raw. I did all of the things. And then I had a shaman. I know we're getting off topic here, but I just want to share this because I think it's important. I had a shaman who said, have you ever thought about that plants, in order to evolve, they're part of our evolution. So eating plants, eating animals, that's all part of the evolutionary process. And so, that was really like, wow, I never thought about that before. I always
Right.
thought it like, I don't want to be cruel and I don't want to do this. And then come to find out plants have all the same senses. Actually, they have way more senses. They have about 20 senses. We have six, if you count the super secret sixth one that's not so secret anymore.
Well, you have to share the senses. Just share them all right now. And then I'm curious, like, what are some of the senses that plants have that we don't have? And so, yes, please share the six.
Yeah. So, we've got, the ability to hear, we've got the ability to sense, we have the ability to taste, the ability to see, the ability to know, right? So all of these things, so our kinesthetic, we can feel things with our fingers. And plants, they don't have eyes, they don't have ears, and yet they are in constant communication with each other. So if you have two plants side by side and a caterpillar or some invasive bug is eating one of the plants, it literally will emit a scent to all of its surrounding plants to say, "Hey, I'm getting attacked here, get ready. Do what you need to do to protect yourself." So they're like this community that is always looking out for each other, always protecting each other, which to me is amazing, right? So they don't have eyes, they don't have ears, they don't have a mouth. And yet, here they are always in this constant state of communication. And if you look at the root systems of plants, right, the mycelium, and you see this with mushrooms in particular, those roots are under the ground connecting. And so that's how part of their communication.
I've heard this with aspens. I live in Colorado and we've got a lot of beautiful aspens and I did hear that they would communicate through their root system. I did not know about all these additional layers that they can sense when we're coming home, that they can
Yeah, there's a really great book
smell gases.
that's called Plants Talk About.
Okay.
And
Gosh,
you can even go YouTube some of these. There are some little, like 30-minute segments on, what scientists have discovered with the plants.
what a great title. What plants talk about.
I
That
know.
that sounds like a book I would love. Okay. So, when it comes to decluttering, what can we learn from plants? What's the wisdom? What lessons do they have for us?
I mean, they have, plants do not clutter themselves, right? They, unless, nature drops seeds and they will grow around each other, next to each other, but they don't go on top of each other, right? They don't overtake each other. When I think about clutter, I think about like, oh my gosh, I've been overtaken by this clutter.
Yes.
And it's chaos, right? Even in the natural forest, there is some order that the plants work towards and work together to create. You just don't have this big mishmash of stuff. So I think we can learn a lot about the natural order of things by observing plants and even knowing there are certain plants that don't want other plants around them, like the walnut tree. I did not know this until I started studying plants about 15 years ago. And so, when I work with the walnut tincture, I take that one solo because I want to honor the characteristics of that plant. So nothing really grows close to a walnut tree. So it's fascinating, when you can sit and take the time to observe the behaviors, you can learn a lot.
So I spent 6 weeks in a wheelchair because of a broken hip, and every evening I worked all day long in front of a computer, and every evening I would say to a family member, so either one of my kids or my husband, "Who's gonna take mom for a walk? Who's gonna push mom?" I couldn't push the wheelchair because I also had a broken wrist and a cast, and so I would beg, but I was going outside one way or another, and someone would always take me, but the minute we got outside, I would feel better. It would just completely change any anxiety that I had, any frustration, any kind of unease. The minute I got outside, I can breathe, I can think, I can appreciate. And, sitting at like the wheelchair height, it actually was a very different perspective. We have a local park that we can walk to and enjoying it from the wheelchair. I saw things so differently, but the sky was so immense and all of the plants and, they
It's much
really,
easier to shift into gratitude, right?
yes.
When you're out in this expansive world that we live in.
Yes. Yes, and I felt that gratitude, and it just made it so much easier to remain neutral about the broken hip and the broken wrist and know that it was temporary. And so, yeah, and now I'm thinking, gosh, the park is less than 2 miles away. That park, they knew we were coming, right? The plants are like, "Let's get ready for Heather."
Come on, Heather.
And one of our family members, usually it was my youngest son who would take me. Actually, you know what? I think nature also evokes kindness and compassion. My younger son would push me around more often than anybody else, and he would just chit chat, about his day or about anything, and he wouldn't consciously realize this, but on each walk with him, I would get about 5 kisses on the top of my head, and I feel like that he's never done that indoors, never. But for some reason, being outside, pushing me in that wheelchair, just he was fully present in whatever he was sharing and experiencing. It just evoked that extra kindness.